Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Languages Pedagogy Podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're diving deep into a topic that is as complex as it's fascinating, as personal as it is global, and as subtle as it is loud. Today we explore how culture shapes language learning. Now, I want you to imagine this. Two students walk into a language classroom. One is from Japan, the other one from Brazil. They're sitting side by side, learning English together, reading the same dialogues, practicing the same vocabulary list, even writing the same test. But as you watch them interact, something becomes clear. They're not just learning a language. They're experiencing it through different cultural filters. They approach mistakes differently. They ask questions differently. They process new information differently. But why? Because culture isn't just the backdrop of language learning. It's the invisible hand that shapes how we think, learn, and communicate. So in today's episode, we're going to unpack the idea. We'll journey across continents, touch base with linguistic theory, dive into classrooms, and listen to stories from real learners and teachers to understand just how deep culture runs in the veins of language learning. This is not just about learning cultural facts, like national holidays or greetings. It's about how culture shapes our mind, our behaviors, and even the expectations we bring into the learning space. So, wherever you are, sit back, plug in, get your coffee, your tea, your cha, and let's explore how culture and language learning, are forever intertwined. Let's get started.
Woo! Let's go!
Part 1. What is culture in language learning? Let's start by defining the term. When we talk about culture in language learning, we're not talking about cuisine, festivals, clothing, or dance. Sure, those things are important, yeah. They're tangible and colorful. But culture is also the set of shared values, social norms, worldviews, and communication styles that form the psychological framework of a society. It's the reason why eye contact is encouraged in the US, but can feel confrontational in Korea. It's why silence in a classroom in Finland might signal deep thinking, while in Mexico it might indicate confusion. Culture influences how we ask questions, how we express disagreement, how we perceive authority, how comfortable we feel with ambiguity or risk, or how we interpret nonverbal cues as well, right? Also on how we view success, maybe effort and failure. Now, think about how many of these are central to language learning. Culture doesn't just sit beside language. It builds the lens through which language is acquired, practiced, and even judged. Part 2. The iceberg model. What's below the surface? Okay, so the iceberg model of culture, developed by anthropologist Edward T. Hall, is one of the most powerful metaphors for understanding how culture works in language learning. Above the surface are the visible aspects: food, clothing, language, music, you name it. But below the surface lie the invisible, deeply embedded aspects. Ideas about modesty, rules of politeness, approaches to authority, notions of time, communication style, concept of fairness. You know that, right? So as language educators, if we only teach the tip of the iceberg, our learners may never understand why things are said a certain way or why something sounds offensive in one culture but polite in another. Think of the word please. In English, it's almost mandatory. But in Russian or Korean, saying please too much can actually come across as fake or sarcastic. This doesn't mean Russian or Korean speakers are rude. It means their cultural framework expresses politeness differently. So, to truly understand a language, we must go below the surface. And the deeper we go, the richer the learning experience becomes. Continuing with part 3, culture and classroom behavior. Now let's talk about classroom dynamics. Different cultures produce different learner behaviors. Here are some powerful examples. Let's go. In many East Asian countries, for example, here, students are conditioned to value group harmony, respect for authority, and not losing face. So they may avoid speaking out or answering questions unless absolutely sure. In contrast, Western classrooms, for example, often promote individual expression, critical thinking, and debate. So students are encouraged, even expected, to challenge ideas and ask questions. Now, imagine a teacher from the US teaching English in Japan or China. That teacher may interpret students' silence as disengagement. Meanwhile, the students may interpret the teacher's directness as rude or intimidating. The clash isn't about language. It's about cultural expectations. And as teachers, we must learn to read these behaviors not as deficiencies, but as reflections of deeply embedded cultural norms. Only then can we create inclusive, effective learning spaces. Part 4. Cultural perceptions of language and identity. Now let's go deeper. Culture doesn't just shape how we learn, right? It also shapes how we see the target language and how we see ourselves in relation to it. In some cultures, speaking English is seen as a symbol of success, modernity, or global citizenship. In others, it might be seen as a form of cultural imperialism, a betrayal of one's heritage, or simply unnecessary. This is true, huh? This affects motivation. A French student who feels English threatens the purity of their native tongue may resist full immersion. Meanwhile, a Nigerian student may see English as a path to upward mobility and embrace it wholeheartedly. Learners bring this baggage into the classroom, right? And as teachers, we need to understand it, not to erase it, but to work with it. Language learning isn't just an academic pursuit. It's often a negotiation of identity. Part 5. Pragmatics. The cultural layer of language. Alright, let's talk about pragmatics now. The way we use language in real context. This is where culture often hits hardest. Saying no directly in English may be fine in New York, but in Japan, a direct no can feel too harsh. Compliments are frequent in American English, but in some cultures, complimenting too much can feel disingenuous or even intrusive. Sarcasm, irony, and humor vary wildly from culture to culture. That's a fact. What's funny in one language might be offensive or confusing in another. Without cultural understanding, learners may be technically fluent but socially lost. Part 6. Culturally responsive teaching strategies. So, what can we do as teachers? I want to hear you. Please Leave your comments here in the comment section, and let's keep the conversation going. I want to hear you. What are your tips, maybe your strategies? Here are some that I'm going to share with you. So, all these strategies that I'm going to show you, that I'm going to just share with you, are the ones that I've been, using them throughout my years of experience teaching around the world. So the first one, make culture explicit. Don't just assume students will pick up cultural nuances. Discuss them openly. The second one, contrastive analysis. Compare students' home culture with the target culture. This builds awareness and reduces judgment. Third one, role plays and scenarios. Create culturally rich simulations, such as ordering in a cafe or navigating small talk in Texas. I don't know. Fourth, celebrate all cultures in the classroom. Encourage students to bring their cultural perspective into learning. Make the classroom a shared space. This is a very important one. Fifth, avoid stereotypes. Don't assume all Chinese students are quiet or all Italians are expressive. Culture is complex and individualized. Sixth, check your own cultural lens. Teachers aren't culturally neutral. We bring our own baggage too. Reflect on it. Be aware of it. Just remember, cultural humility is key. Part 7. Real stories from the field. Let me share a few voices from around the world. Lucia, a Spanish teacher in Taiwan, said, I had to change how I give feedback. In Spain, I'm used to being direct, but here, I saw students withdraw if I wasn't careful with tone. David, an American student learning Japanese, told me I didn't realize how much indirectness mattered. I kept saying things too directly and it came off as rude, even though my grammar was perfect. Minji, a Korean student studying in Canada, said, I used to think being quiet was polite, but here people ask me, why don't you participate? I had to learn to speak up, not just in English, but culturally. These stories remind us language learning is never just linguistic. It's emotional, psychological, and cultural. Part 8. The power of cultural curiosity. Here's something I tell all my students. Be curious, not critical. When you encounter a new cultural behavior, don't say, that's weird. Say, that's interesting. Ask why. Explore. Language learners who develop this curiosity become not just better speakers, but better humans, more empathetic, more adaptable, more open-minded. In a world that's increasingly interconnected, yet divided, that's the kind of learning that matters. So, what have we encountered today? Culture is not an accessory to language. It's the spine, the silent influence, the guide behind the grammar. If we want to teach or learn a language effectively, we can't afford to ignore culture. We have to embrace it, explore it, and question it. And as we do, we don't just grow as linguists, we grow as people. And thank you for spending this time with me, reflecting on how culture shapes our journey through languages. Whether you're a teacher working across continents, a student navigating classroom expectations, or a curious soul picking up a new language on your own. Remember, language doesn't live in isolation. It lives in people, and people are shaped by culture. Until next time, keep speaking, keep questioning, and keep embracing the world, one word, one culture at a time.